Court is in session at cause number 326310. Case is styled the state of Texas versus Christopher Javon Levine. Mr. Levine, is that your full name? How you doing? That's good. Mr. Levine, you're here represented by your attorney, Attorney Langston Adams. Attorney Adams, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Mr. Levine, well, Mr. Adams, what is your announcement in Mr. Levine's case?
Judge, I want one reset on him and then I'll be ready to go after that.
No objection. No objection.
Okay, one reset.
Mhm.
Okay. Give us a reset date on Christopher Levine.
And I'm sorry.
Okay, would you please stand on the X in front of our court coordinator to get your reset?
In that case, I'm.
yeah. That is the paperwork is ready on that one?
And then Mr. Pacquiao,
Oh, okay, hold on.
I'm
a
not
minute.
sure he's here. Is he here?
It's gonna be reset September 9th. Levine? Okay, let me look at that. Let's see what we got. And Pocky, let's see. Yeah, the paperwork on going.
Yes, sir. I'm finishing up on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Harold Garner, Carolyn Garner. If we can get okay, then this is cause number 331676.
Yes, sir.
Case of South State of Texas versus Harold Lynn Garner. Mr. Garner, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Garner, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Garner, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Mr. Garner, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Garner? I'm doing fine. Mr. Garner, you're here represented by your attorney, Attorney Langston Adams. Attorney Adams, how are you doing?
Can't complain.
And do you waive a record in this case, Mr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Garner, are you related to that gentleman in the back? His name is Harold Garner as well, is that correct?
Damn.
Now, that's your dad. I know your dad. Okay, now and Mr. Garner, you could come on up.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Garner, you and I know each other, is that correct?
Very well, Your Honor.
And had you ever communicated with me about this case involving your son?
No, sir.
Okay, now, is there anything about that, my relationship, I would ask the state, is there anything about the relationship that I have with Mr. Garner that will, you think I should recuse myself from this case?
Not all.
You waive any conflicts of interest?
Any actual or even potential or perceived conflicts, Judge.
And Mr. Adams, the same questions to you. You waive any potential conflicts of interest, any
No.
appearances of impropriety?
We have no problem moving forward.
Okay, okay, Mr. Garner, you may be seated.
Thank you, Your Honor. Have a
Okay.
blessed day.
All right, same to you. Now, Mr. Harold Garner, I have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor, well, actually it's titled information. This information was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. And this information alleges that on or about February 4th of 2021, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of theft with prior conviction. Mr. Garner, do you understand what you have been charged with? And to discharge Mr. Garner, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No conflict.
No contest? Now, Mr. Garner, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges? Now, Mr. Garner, I have before me a document that is titled misdemeanor plea admonishments. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit number 1. Mr. Garner, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Garner, there's a set of initials, HLG. Do you recognize these initials on this document? Now, these initials are on a line next to a box that's checked nolo contendere, which means no contest. Okay. On page 3 of this same document, there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, Mr. Garner, this document is titled Trial Court Certification of the Defendant's Right of Appeal. Do you recognize this document? And at the bottom of this document, there's a signature above the line that's titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Garner, I also have before me a document that is titled Discovery Certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
It is.
Now, Mr. Garner, before you signed and initialed these documents, did your attorney, Mr. Adams, go over these documents with you?
Yes, he did.
And did you read and understand everything that Mr. Adams went over? Mr. Garner, are you a citizen of the United States? State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1 and State's Exhibit number 2, the probable cause affidavit. State, you like to offer States 1 and 2?
Yes, sir. State offer states 1 and 2.
Any objections?
No.
No objections. States 1 and 2 are admitted. Mr. Adams, you've advised and counseled Mr. Garner. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
None.
Mr. Garner, your attorney, Mr. Adams, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes.
Mr. Garner, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
What is that agreement?
In exchange for the defendant's plea of no contest in this case, the state's recommending a fine only in the amount of $500, and also the defendant paid the cost of court in this case.
Mr. Garner, the state is offering that you pay a fine of $500 plus court costs. And the court cost in this case is $337. So the total fine and court cost is $837. Mr. Garner, will you be able to pay the $837 today? Okay. Mr. Garner, do you understand the state's offer? Do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just? And do you accept the state's offer? Mr. Garner, I will follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Garner, you're gonna stand on the X next to your attorney and follow the directions of our clerk. And once you finish following her directions, your attorney can tell you where you need to go, make that payment. And then once that payment is made, you or your attorney could bring the receipt back up to the court. All right, please stand on the X. Right here, the first X.
And Mr. Garner, can I get your right thumbprint on that blue light, please? Thank you. You can remove your thumb.